All right. Um, it's been requested that I share my recipe for pan-fried salmon. So that's what I'm going to cook tonight. And it's simple ingredients. You have salmon. I'm actually cooking two pieces tonight. They're the last one, so I'm going to go ahead and do two. You have your typical salt and pepper. This one is actually the Himalayan pink salt. And then you have about 6 tablespoons of butter divided into 2 and 4. You have dill. You have cayenne, which a lot of people don't realize. And the butter that I use is plant butter. It's avocado oil. So you get a healthy oil in it. And so here it goes. You start heating your skillet up. You can put your butter in first if you really want to. I'm going to let it heat up just a bit. This is an electric stove, so you want it, if you're on a big burner like this, you want it on about 4 just to get it going. So we're going to start melting the butter. Okay, and if it's already bubbling, go ahead and turn it down slightly. This doesn't take very long, the whole process here. The other 2 tablespoons of butter are just for veggies, and I like heavy butter in my veggies. So if you're only doing one, you can use a small skillet and probably get away with 2 to 3 tablespoons of butter. But tonight I'm going to go ahead and use all 4. And again, if you're using natural butter instead of plant-based, pay real attention to the way it's bubbling, and so you don't burn it. All right, got that going. So right now my burner is on 3. And you'll also notice that my stove is on a slight incline. So you start with skin side down. Now what I do is, as that's cooking, all I'm going to do is put just a slight amount of salt and pepper. And that's all I'm going to do for right now. When you're cooking with natural fish, ocean fish I should say, you want to use just a little bit of salt as a preservative, as well as the flavor enhancer. So right now what we're doing is we're making sure that this is getting fully cooked on the skin side. And yeah, I used too much butter on this one. That's okay. You'll notice that the skin will start to stick. That's okay. I went ahead and increased the heat on this large burner to 4, which is just slightly below the halfway point, I would say. Depends on your stove. Now, as you can see from this one, I don't know if you can see it, but it's starting to cook about halfway through just from being skin side down. And again, this is my personal recipe. This is real time, so right now it's only maybe 5 minutes into the whole cooking process. So what you want to do with this is actually let it cook, again, skin side down, until it's approximately halfway, completely cooked halfway. And it's just about there. This one's a little thicker, so it's taking a little bit more time. So I'm going to go ahead and flip them. So the goal when you cook fish like salmon is to not dry the meat. And fish will cook rather quickly. Okay, again, on skin side, and not everybody does this. So I'm going to put just a little bit more salt. And just a little bit more pepper. You want to make sure that the meat is not sticking. So if you're using a lower amount of butter, then you want to keep an eye on that. As you can see, right around here, it's a nice golden color. I don't know if you can see that on the camera or not. But it's still very moist. The skin is starting to get crispy, which is awesome. Not everybody eats the skin, but you should. It's full of very healthy fats and nutrients. I believe it's omega-6. So this is just for an even cook. So I'm going to look at the bottom. Okay, it's getting to the point of this golden color. Again, without drying it. Okay, we're going to let that go just a little bit longer. When I flip it, you'll see what I'm talking about, the golden color. It's similar to this. And if you're using natural butter, you'll see right now the butter that I use, it's starting to turn slightly. That's not only the oil within the butter, but it's also the oils within the fish. Okay, I think that's long enough. Awesome. nice, beautiful golden color. So now we're going to let that skin keep cooking just a little bit. You can go ahead and turn your burner down to about a 2 or a 3. Now I'm going to sprinkle the cayenne. This is not for heat. A lot of people think that cayenne is solely for heat, and it will give a little bit of a heat to it, and I like to add a little extra. You don't have to do this. If you'll notice over on this one, there's not as much. So that's roughly the amount that you would want to use. But cayenne is actually like salt. It's a flavor enhancer. And then you want to sprinkle dill. You don't want to overdo it because the dill will actually overpower the fish if you let it. And then again, salt and pepper, but this time it's on top. And for me, I'm going to use a little bit more. I like the pepper. And you may notice that I'm turning the salt backward. That's because this little grinder is very powerful. So this is roughly done. So I'm turning the burner off. Now, on an electric, if you're not aware, it will keep cooking, where on a gas, once you kill the heat, everything starts cooling down. You'll notice on the sides, it's lighter, but it's not, the whole thing isn't golden. You don't want that. Because if you have that golden color everywhere, that's an indicator that your meat's drying out. You only want that on the top here as a crust, and then again on any exposed meat on the skin side. So I am going to take these off. I was going to use that to drain, but don't really need to. So we're going to put this back on the plate so it can rust slightly. Which allows, when food rests, it allows any of the spices to continue soaking in while the meat is cooling. Now on this back, I'm just, as you can see, the butter I had in here just melted. That's all I'm doing. I'm going to add a little pepper in this. There's enough salt in the fish that I don't need to salt that. But what I am going to do, just for added flavor, and my family knows that this is pretty much my staple, is a little bit of onion powder. There's probably about a 1/4 teaspoon, maybe a little more. And just a hint of garlic. With this much, this little, I don't want to overpower it, so probably an 1/8 at most. And then just for shits and giggles, I'm going to add just a little bit of turmeric. Give it a slightly different flavor. Now, the garlic and the onion are going to soak in with the butter. And then the flavor of the turmeric is going to kind of follow suit. Okay, let's take a look. Forgot to get this when I started. Let's take a look at this fish. I'm going to start with these lower sides because they would be the ones to dry out since they're thinner. So I'm going to crack the crust with a knife about an inch in. And as you can see, this is a butter knife and it's going right through the crust. Then I'm going to open it. As you can see, there's still a lot of juice in there, which is what we want. Now on the flip side, you can see that the skin is very crispy. And personal preference, I would actually like it a little crispier than this. Closer to what it is on this side. Without burning, you simply want it crisp. Kind of like a potato chip style crisp. If you see this, that's okay. That's just an inner skin right there. But as you can see under it, this is still very nice. So it has a nice color. And then I'm going to go up here to where it's thick. And again, it goes in very nice. And it looks like this one, which is the thicker of the two, could have stayed skin side down for another few minutes. You don't want this much pink down here. You wanted more of the lighter pink up here. And as you can see, I'm pressing into it. So that's another indicator that I didn't cook that one long enough. Let's go a little bit on the thin side. There. You see that lighter pink on that one? Like I said, it's still juicy. That's what you want. And you want that lighter pink. Kind of rush that. So I can put that back in and just do that a little bit. So on this one, let's do the same thing. We'll do the thinner portion. We're going to pull it off the skin. There's that very light pink that we want. You got crisp skin down there. And then up here on the thicker one, as you'll notice, I'm not really pulling the skin off this one, which is okay. And there you have the light pink. And this one, it's not super red like this, but it is juicy. Now with salmon, you want it flaky. So instead of doing the knife, what I'm going to do is pull it slightly with the fork. Again, going through the crust. And you'll see that it kind of comes off in little flakes. Well, I guess that one does, on the thicker area, does need a little bit more in the pan. That's okay. I can do that really fast once I'm done. So as you can see, it does not take very long. I rarely set timers. There's that super thick skin, and that one, the skin itself, needs to cook a little bit longer as well. It's slightly crispy. I want it more. Very good flavor. Does have that little bit of a kick from the cayenne. But yeah, probably another minute, 2 minutes at the heat setting it was. Especially for this one because it is so thick. Where this one, you can actually see how it's flaking right here. So if we pull at it, you'll see that it comes off in these little flakes right here. So that is how I cook my salmon. And again, I apologize for doing it a little rushed. So let me go ahead and plate this really fast. So I'm going to go ahead and take some of these smaller pieces. And we're going to pretend this is done. I'll take this one. I'll take this one since we know that's the crispier one. And you can lay it on the side, you can put it on the bottom, or you can rest it on top. You can see the yellow from the turmeric. It's also going to help flavor. Plus, it adds a little bit of a dipping sauce for the fish. If you don't want that much, then just use maybe a teaspoon rather than a couple of tablespoons. So that is dinner for the night.